Thanks for being with us here on Morning Live. Now, ANC members who are expected to step aside from Friday last week because of corruption charges against them have another week before they find out their fate. Now, the party's National Executive Committee, that's the NEC, had earlier given the affected members 30 days in which to step aside or face suspension at the last meeting at the end of March. Now, the party says that its National Working Committee will process all reports from provinces today and then send them to the NEC ahead of its meeting this coming Saturday, when a decision will be made. And those who are expected to step aside include Party Secretary General Ace Magashule, Member of Parliament Bongani Bongo, Limpopo Treasurer Danny Msiza, and former eThekwini Mayor Zandile Gumede, among others. Professor Susan Booysen is a visiting professor at Wits School of Governance and a political analyst, and she joins us now for more. Prof, good morning. Thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina.
So, ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule, I suppose the most high profile among those who were expected to actually step aside, and we are still waiting. It seems as though it's something that just will not happen. So, what does that say about the ANC and the state in which the organization or the party finds itself in right now?
Well, Sakina, it is a question of balances, the balance of forces in the ANC. And in this week, it's going to be a pivotal week, really telling us what is the current ANC, who is in charge of the ANC, and what is that way forward. And so much of what is going to happen will hinge on the steps of Ace Magashule and his associates, perhaps even Supremo Mapelo in the Northwest, and what kind of support is being manifested for them. We've seen so many reports of branches here and statements there and threats of court action in other places, and how these different factors come together and what it's going to say about Ace Magashule and his steps as Secretary General. He is in a powerful position. He is resisting stepping down, and whether he decides to comply and be the disciplined cadre within the ANC, or whether he intends to mobilize and get support and try to stay in the ANC, in his position in the ANC, until a National General Council or a conference, or whether he builds up a base and exits and tries to split off but takes big portions of the ANC with him. All of these are possibilities on which we will be getting indications in the current week. And just one point, under the presidency of Cyril Ramaphosa, many people are saying it's a question, it will show whether he's a weak or a strong leader. In some respects, I agree that that is true, but it is also a question of the state of the ANC. When Cyril Ramaphosa has to compromise now and keep factions, some more corrupt than others, together, that is a big indication of what the balance is within the ANC.
Magashule also expected to meet with former leaders of the party, and we saw him posting pictures once more this weekend of some of those consultations with former presidents. What do you make of that, and what is the ultimate objective with these consultations?
Sakina, those consultations came about when Ace Magashule was playing for time in the outcome of the previous NEC meeting at the end of last month, where he was given 7 days to get out, to step aside, but stay in the ANC, but step aside from his position as the Secretary General. And then on the other hand, then he negotiated for 30 days so that he could consult with the party elders. That he did reluctantly. He started very prejudiciously biased, in a biased way, and met with former President Zuma and one or two others, and resisted meeting with Thabo Mbeki and Kgalema Motlanthe as former presidents of the country and deputy president of the ANC, Motlanthe. And then at the last moment, end of last week, he did do that. And then apparently over the weekend, yesterday, perhaps he would also have met with President Cyril Ramaphosa to inform him of his decision. And yet it is a question of playing for time, but the ANC and Ramaphosa is also playing it very carefully. making sure that they're not accused of not giving Ace Magashule the time to speak up and to put his case.
So what does this mean ultimately? Would it be, as some reporters and pundits have said over the weekend, that this means that the step-aside rule has fallen flat on its face? Or is there more to play out here, and what is to be learned from it all?
Yeah, that is really going to be clear in the next few days as to whether it's fallen flat. The ANC and Ramaphosa are in control of the ANC, and other people around him really cannot afford to let it fall flat, because then it's a free-for-all and it's an ANC that will have no credibility. So much are in the hands of a few people who have to be brave enough in the next few days, and it can have consequences with people splitting off and resisting and mobilizing more vehemently inside. It can come at a price. But the ANC is probably at the point where it has to decide whether it's prepared to go into a neverland of forever resisting definitive action against corruption and ethical politics within the organization, or whether it can show that it is serious and committed to that mandate it had asked a few years ago in national elections from the electorate, namely a vote for a cleaned-up ANC.
Well, you know, to the points that you make, Professor Booysen, if we look at what's been happening at branch level, for example, in preparation for the upcoming regional and provincial conferences of the African National Congress, we've seen, for example, in KwaZulu-Natal, the likes of Zandile Gumede, once again, you know, that name coming up very strongly from branch level, where people are saying that they will nominate Zandile Gumede and others who've been implicated in corruption, regardless of this step-aside rule. So isn't that an indication of this rule having fallen flat?
It is certainly a potential indication of that, depending on how the leadership of the ANC is going to handle it. We've heard similar kind of reports, not just like in KwaZulu-Natal, but also Northwestern Free State, where there have been outright defiance of the national directives about stepping aside. One thing that is not clear at this stage as to the extent and the scope of this resistance. If it is widespread, it can be an incredibly embarrassing and disintegrational effect on the ANC if the branches resist on the side of not going for ethical politics and clean leaders being nominated. So it will depend so much on how brave, courageous, really, it sounds dramatic, but that is what will be required of the top leadership should they want to make sure the ANC goes forward as a cleaner, with an organization with a good reputation. That kind of reputation that Cyril Ramaphosa last week at the Zondo Commission said what the ANC is all about and how the ANC is going about correcting itself. I really believe there is no going back with any credibility from those kinds of definitive statements. Should the ANC go back on that, it will be utterly embarrassing, and it will be seen not to have any integrity of note and won't be the political party that people had voted for a few years ago.
But of course, that's indicative of the mammoth task, the size of the problem that the ANC finds itself with, because the power rests with the branches. The mandate essentially derives from the branches. So if this is the feeling at the branch level, at grassroots level, how then does it get overturned higher up? And, you know, just playing devil's advocate, how then do you continue to say with any sort of authority that the power rests with the branches if you're going to overturn their wishes?
Certainly, Sakina, and I think pivotal to this is that we do not know how many branches, so what proportion of branches are resisting and nominating aberrant people, fallen foul of roles and rules in the ANC. We do not know yet how strong that is. All I can assume at this stage, and I think anybody can, perhaps in the ANC Secretary General's office in Luthuli House, they would know how big it is. But in politics, we usually see it is those branches who have some resistance at this stage. It's important for them to show that they are resisting these directives about stepping aside. I think if I had to choose someone going this way or that way on the scope, I would say those who are resisting strongly are ones who are also prepared to say that at this stage, because they are trying to mobilize for Magashule and few others, and are hoping to have the threat of intimidation of the main ANC leadership to show that you cannot do this because you are threatening the organization. I think the core ones are the ones probably who are not going that route of resistance.
Let's push that peanut a little bit further, Prof. But what does the ANC then ultimately do? Because we know the balance of forces within the party from the last empirical evidence from the last conference tells us that, it's very tight up there. So if, let's say, for argument's sake, the balance of forces are still very, very tight either way, what then happens? Would the ANC have to embark on a sort of cleanup campaign, as former President Thabo Mbeki said? What did he say? Fewer but, better, something to that effect. Would the ANC have to look at that and maybe start to purge some of its own branches, disband them? Because we've seen these sort of things before where branches get disbanded. What would have to happen?
Yes, this is so crucial, this moment, because that exact scope is not known. At the ANC, in order to have any credibility left, they would have to do that and would have to suspend those branches or put them under administration. And it's a critical, almost unparalleled, it will be an unparalleled moment for the ANC. At the moment, we already have two provinces, Free State, literally disbanded, although they're resisting it. Northwest, yes, we know it's under interim leadership there. And it could be that more provinces, although other provinces are probably more divided, Limpopo and Mpumalanga, we hear many voices of mobilization and resistance from those provinces as well. At branch level, and we know provincially there are some attempts to organize, several other provinces are really very divided. So in order for the ANC to take this stronger stand, it will have to run the risk of alienating big parts of its own structures. And that is almost inevitable given how widespread corruption and misbehavior within the organization is. The ANC, on the other hand, the other option, the scenario, if you like, would be to say, we've got so much electoral support, voters, electorate have shown that they probably vote for us anyway on the mere suggestion of clean-ups and better and hope for a cleaner future for the ANC, that we can go with this corrupt reputation and trust that the electorate will still support us come the next election. That is a gamble that the ANC would have to take. It is possible that they will do that, but yes, then there's equal chance that if they suspend branches and take a definitive stand, that parts of the ANC could split away, although it is still very much about fighting for that brand of the ANC. Nobody wants to leave the ANC because they want to be the owners of that brand, and because that guarantees them political futures. So really, so much is in the balance at this stage.
We're out of time, Prof, but I have to quickly just ask you to touch on these two matters. Firstly, it is reported that Ace Magashule has advised Supra Mahumapelo not to give in to the suspension in the Northwest. And this, of course, while the provincial PEC says the suspension stands. So what's your view on that? And also the continued financial challenges. We're seeing communication from the ANC saying that this will continue for the next 3 to 6 months, the struggle to pay the office bearers in the organization. So please just give us your take on those two matters.
Yes, in the first place, we've already heard the interim political structures, ANC structures in the Northwest, taking a very, very strong stand against Ace Magashule, guaranteeing to promote better that his membership or his position in ANC is intact. And that is, I think, a good indication of the kind of resistance that and the battle between the two main factions of the ANC that we will be seeing unfolding this week. It is really a point of throwing down the gauntlet to the main ANC structures and saying, do something about it. This is where Ace Magashule stands. So a clear indication, it's almost a declaration of war in this battle to get the ANC out on a better standing. And on the finances side, yes, that is incredible. And we've seen and heard over the weekend that SARS Revenue Service has taken a garnishing order on ANC for not having paid over PAYE taxes over the last few, and we don't exactly know how long, it could have been years, and that affects the ANC salaries. So that is internal problems there. One can only imagine the kind of turmoil that ordinary employees at head office, perhaps at regional offices, are going through in having to, at this crucial time, having to give their loyalty commitment to the ANC, and yet their salaries are not being paid. So it is a big indication, really, of internal crumbling of an organization, which externally, in terms of electorate elections, is standing strong and is literally unchallenged in terms of overall proportions of the vote. But yet, internally, it cannot keep itself standing. So this is a pivotal moment.
Professor Susan Booysen, thanks so much for your time and your insights this morning. Professor Susan Booysen is a visiting professor at Wits School of Governance and a political analyst, also an author, discussing some of the developments at the ANC and the step-aside rule and related matters. Right.